House Republican leaders' 1 a.m. East Coast time vote to advance President Trump's tax cut and spending cut bill through key rules committee. As Republicans wonder if Trump's Capitol Hill visit this morning did anything to move the needle. CNN's Manu Raju is on Capitol Hill. Manu, how many people in the Republican caucus oppose this bill? And will this bill advance tonight, do you think, through the key committee?
We do expect it to clear that first procedural hurdle, but Jake, the next 24 hours are really unclear how it will play out because there is still sizable opposition, more than Speaker Johnson can afford. He can only afford to lose 3 Republican votes on any straight party line vote. And here is the problem, because there are 2 different warring wings within his conference. There's one who want deeper spending cuts, but then if you push for deeper spending cuts from those conservatives want, then you get pushback from the more moderate wing of the Republican conference. And those more moderate members, not only are they concerned about those spending cuts, but they also are pushing for a greater tax deduction for the amount that taxpayers pay on their state and local taxes. It's proposed right now under this bill at $30,000 for a married couple making less than $400,000 or less. They want to increase that cap. But if they increase that cap, then there's going to be pushback from those conservative members who don't want to provide that level of deduction, and they contend that it is a subsidy for blue states. But that negotiation has been going on for the last day frantically behind the scenes. There is some news, though, Jake. I caught up with Mike Lawler, who's part of that effort to help on the state and local tax issue. He told me there's progress being made. And then on the conservative side, I caught up with Chip Roy just moments ago, who's pushing for deeper spending cuts. He said there's progress being made as well. However, Roy says if that SALT cap increase, there will be deeper spending cuts. And other Republican members, including Eric Burlison of Missouri, told me that the deficit concerns are real. And if this grows the deficit, this bill, he'll vote no. If this bill comes to the floor, you're a no.
Right now, I'm a no. I want to get to a yes. I absolutely want to get to a yes. But I ran on balancing the budget. I don't know that I can sleep at night if I don't stick to that.
It's already very expensive. We've tripled it with no negotiations. Everybody just assumed the $30,000. Now they're asking for more.
Are you still a no?
Nothing's changed.
Don't work for the Freedom Caucus. They just need to get over themselves.
And Jake, there is no official estimate from the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan office that analyzes how much this would impact the budget deficit. And that's going to be a big question. When those numbers come out, how will that impact the vote? But the speaker is racing. He wants this done potentially as soon as tomorrow night out of the United States House, or potentially even Thursday. The question, though, Jake, is can he get there? Can they cut the deal? Can they get all these members in line? Really uncertain at this moment, Jake.
All right, Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much. CNN's Kristen Holmes has been following this from the White House today. Kristen, Trump is clearly singling out one Republican. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely singling out Kentucky Representative Massey. This is not the first time that he has done this, and it probably won't be the last. Massey is a fiscal hawk. He is aligned with the Freedom Caucus, and he has continued to say that he will not vote on this bill. Here's what Trump said when he landed on Capitol Hill today.
I don't think Thomas Massey understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office.
This is also not the only time Trump has said that he should be voted out of office, but a couple of things to point out here. There is a reason why Trump is singling out members of Congress. He also, within the meeting, as we know, pointed out to Congressman Mike Lawler, saying he knew his district better than Lawler knew his district when we were talking about these SALT caps. The reason is that this is Donald Trump's legacy. There is nothing that Donald Trump cares more about getting done at this point than passing this bill, and he's willing to get up at 8:30 in the morning and go to Capitol Hill to try and convince these members to do so. They believe, again, this is his legacy. The economy is his legacy. Now, Massey, for his part, brushed the whole thing off. He was talking to our Lauren Fox, saying that actually Donald Trump wasn't that mean to him. He said he had nicer hair than Rand Paul. But Massey, even after that conversation, after Donald Trump was there on the Hill, still says he's a no.
I think what we saw is today showed just how important this is for Trump, how high the stakes are, because Trump could have picked up the phone. Right? You've been lobbied, Congressman, right? You pick up the phone. The fact that he went up to the Hill and twisted arms in person I don't care how much love he says there was. He started off by saying, if you don't vote the way I want, you should be voted out of office. There's one other thing that I think is notable about today, and that is it is one of the few times we have seen Republicans, a number of them, stand up to Trump.
It is notable for sure. I mean, it's not just Rep. Massey who has been, he's a pretty reliable no. It's others as well that are still coming out and saying, I'm not there yet. I'm not swayed. Congressman, bring us into a dynamic like this. You have been in that situation before, right? Is what you see publicly what you see behind closed doors as well in a meeting like what we saw today?
Well, it certainly brought back some memories of being in those meetings. Those are meetings of love. And,
just pure love, no tough love?
Part of those meetings of love, a little bit of tough love, but that's who Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump and Speaker Johnson know that the best whip right now, and Whip Emmer knows this, is Donald Trump coming in to make the case as to why Republicans should stick together on reauthorizing his major accomplishment from his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the Trump tax cuts. In the end, this is nothing new than what the Democrats went through with Build Back Better. You're going to see, and we have seen with the speaker's races, that Republicans have said, I'm not there yet. Eventually, they're going to get there. And one thing about the deadlines, Congress doesn't do anything without a deadline. Right. So Speaker Johnson had to say, we got to get this done this week.
That's just the way it works. I mean, go ahead.
Well, there's another whip. And that whip is the American people who are very upset about the attack on health care.
Yeah.
I'm talking to a lot of people. Look, I'm not a healthcare person, honestly. I do clean energy. We talk about that stuff. But the idea that Medicaid and Medicare are at risk has mobilized a lot of people who are not political at all, but who have a parent, who have a cancer diagnosis, and who are terrified that what's happening up here, this kind of frog marching forward of a Congress to do something to make Trump happy, is going to make a lot of other people sick and maybe even dead.
Well, not only that, but it's 13 million Americans who could lose their health insurance. There was a new study that came out this morning saying about 18 million children could lose free school lunch. And so this is going to have major impacts. You're not seeing this big, happy, loving meeting because vulnerable Republicans right now know that whatever they vote on, they're going to be held accountable in the midterm elections, and whatever comes out of the Senate is not going to be identical to this. So they're walking the plank, and they don't even know what the end bill is going to end up being, right? And so I think that's the struggle that you're seeing in the Republican Party right now is everything is going up because of tariffs, and you have rising prices for Americans. You have Americans who are going to lose their health insurance, and now you have children who are going to be impacted. And how do they sell that to the American people come the midterm elections?
And it's unclear. I mean, we don't have firm numbers from the CBO in terms of the exact number of children impacted and people, but it is expected to be in the millions of those who lose their health insurance as a result of this. And you hear Republicans say, well, this is about getting rid of, and you heard this from President Trump, this is about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. But when this is actually in effect, assuming this bill passes, you have to wonder about the reality when that hits, when people are having to deal with more cumbersome paperwork or at risk of losing their health insurance and how that could backfire.
And there's the political reality of the Republicans have very few seats right now. The Democrats want to take back the House. Will votes like this and issues like this make the difference?
I think the other thing, too, is that the Republican Party is now kind of suffering from its success. It wanted to move to a more working class base. It wanted to bring in more working families. Well, those working families can't afford some of the stuff that they're talking about. And so the old Republican Party, it was the country club crowd, maybe they could deal with this stuff. The new Republican Party, the base, once these bills come due, it's going to be a problem for the Republicans.
Now,
you see it differently?
Yeah, one thing to think about, though, Van, and you got to look at that new Republican base, the working class base that has overwhelmingly come to my party. You know what they're going to see? The overwhelming majority of them are going to see with inaction, with Republicans not doing what they said they were going to do. Yeah. It's going to be the largest tax increase in American history that will go right to their pocketbooks. Americans that I've spoken with, at our tax roundtables around the country, small business owners, they want to see the tax provisions reauthorized.
Let me just follow up on that because, and you heard it today from President Trump too, sort of tout that this will be the largest tax increase. But a lot of this is a continuation of the tax cuts that Americans are already receiving. Of course, there's the addition of no taxes on overtime and no taxes on tips. But it does raise the question whether Republicans are sort of raising the expectations so much that if this passes, Americans are going to be seeing this huge, tax relief in their pay cuts.
Well, only in Washington could keeping the status quo of low tax rates instead of going to higher tax rates and raising taxes on every American family be seen as a bad thing. Republicans, members of Congress, Democrats, it's their job to go talk about the votes that they take. And I appreciated, you talked about the process in the House. There's a long way to go. There is a long way to go. But as a member of the House, we always have to vote on a package that was never going to be the same when it comes back from the Senate. And in the end, what people remember, they remember when you fail, like health care in 2017, and they remember the final bill. This is the very first step in the process, but the process has to play out.
Yeah, I think if Democrats message it well, you're going to have another situation like you did when everybody walked the plank on an ACA repeal. Everyone wanted to do away with the ACA. Guess what happens? Democrats won. And if you do what you're doing again, raise prices and take away health care, you're going to have a similar situation.